sort of thinking that I was never like, yeah, right. I'm just, like I said, my throat is hard to manage, but I can do. I might. Just turn that a little bit towards me when you're ready. To get started, y'all. Went to the Women's March on Saturday and couldn't hear any of the speakers. They had a sound system, which was such a big crowd. The only person I could hear was my friend who was yeah.
That's all right.
You want to see? Yeah, let's go.
I mean, you want to go stand up there for a second?
Yeah. Good spot?
I think so. I just have someone stand in the screen. There we go. Yeah. Well, it's not the best quality, but it's working. I'm the audience.
All right, if I can get everybody's attention. Thank you so much for coming out. It's snowing again. Surprised to see that snow. I'm totally ready to pray for snow. You can't stop. All that praying for snow. I'm not. But thank you for coming out. We were anticipating too much weather today, so we're hoping to get a good outcome. We're going to turn it right over to those of you who are consultant team. How many of you attended the last workshop? And how many of you have taken the survey online? Because we're going to start right from where they left off last time, give you a little bit of information. We're going to explain what you're doing tonight, and the votes that you're going to be able to vote right here during the meeting, and you can vote online as well. They're also recording and live streaming this right now, so they'll explain that as well. So, yeah, all right. So,
only I'm on the camera.
So with that, I'll turn over to Amy and the team. And thank you so much for helping us collect all this data and explain what we're doing tonight, what you're going to get, and then make sure that we know where we're going on that.
Great. Good morning, everyone. My name is Amy Sinsheimer. I work for Michael Baker International. With me here tonight is Jessica Hayes on my left and James Begg at the control center here. As Nancy mentioned, we are giving the opportunity for folks who, most of them I assume don't live here. Maybe some people didn't feel like coming over in the snow and are participating at home locally. We are going to be live streaming on YouTube, and we are going to be taking questions and comments that way as well. So the format for tonight is starting with a brief presentation to go over the project for those who aren't familiar with it. And then as part of the presentation, we will also have some voting. And for those of you who were here at the last workshop, the voting is going to be on very similar questions to what you participated on last time. So the idea of tonight's workshop is to give other format opportunity that we really are looking for this we've been asking for in November and on the survey that's been online ever since then. So we aren't going to be presenting results tonight. We aren't quite at that part of the process yet. After this workshop, we will have the survey available for another couple of weeks online. And at the end of the slideshow, we'll have the link in case you haven't taken it yet and you would like to take it. It's also on the city website. And we are going to do question and answer at the end of the presentation. So if you want to ask any input that we've received quite a bit over that time. We also have folks in focus groups in November, so some of you participated in those, and that's where we met with certain groups where we specifically invited people like in the real estate community or in the VHR management community. So after we're finished with all of that input, we realize some quantitative data, a little bit more in the presentation, but we're going to take that quantitative data about trends over time in South Lake, as well as the greater economy related to vacation home rentals, and then also the input we've received, and that will form the basis for our report. And in the report will be scenarios about vacation rentals and then also some policy recommendations. So I'm going to get into the slides because I don't want to repeat those too much, and then we will get into the voting after that. I do want to say that there is a bit of a delay with the YouTube, so when we're doing the voting, we're going to wait a little bit longer than it might take you guys on the results. And the voting will be using your phones, so hopefully you ahead of time. That is the way we're going to do the voting. It was on the city's website. To go to their car to get their phone if they left it in their car? Okay, well, we will also tally the votes here. And the purpose of the voting is really to just get a sense for the people who are participating here tonight, as well as those at home, what your thoughts are, but it's not an ultimate decision. So it's not a quantitative ranking that will then be used to make this ultimate decisions for this study. James, if you would forward the slide, please. So I think I basically went over what we are going to talk about tonight. We will talk a little more about the schedule for the rest of the project during the slideshow. So for those who are at home, here's the information for you to log in on YouTube, and we will be taking comments and questions on the YouTube page as well. So let us know when you have a question, and we will be responding at the end of the presentation. Next slide, please. So a little bit more about us. We are here assisting the city on this project. We are also collaborating with Cal State Sacramento, and for the analysis portion of the project, they're helping us with that quantitative data analysis. And we are all housing experts here, the folks who are here tonight, policy and also administering to housing for local jurisdictions. So we actually have the experience of what works and what doesn't work, and we're bringing that to this project. Next slide. So I already mentioned the community outreach aspect of this project. We will be doing one other workshop once we have a draft. So that will probably occur in spring. But ones that we've that we submitted to the city, there are some examples in there. It could range anywhere from vacation rentals to vacation rentals. Based on what we've heard so far, we expect it will be somewhere in the middle. Those two extremes will be what comes out of this, but we are still figuring out what the scenarios on your input and the data analysis are. Finally, as a recommendation, the city could decide to update their ordinance. They could decide to community outreach or to monitor the process over time. For example, we know that there is new enforcement staff that was hired recently, so for some period of time. So there will be some recommendations, and it will be the city's decision, what they decide to do with that input, those recommendations. So here's the process that we're going through. The outreach portion the initial outreach will be in February, and then we'll be writing the report and doing the analysis several months, and then we expect to come back to you for that workshop, and then the after approval of the plan after that, which we expect will occur about the middle of the year. Next slide. So just to give you a little bit of background on the city's program, VHRs have been regulated to some extent here in the city since 2003. As I think most of you know, the issue has become more of interest to a lot of folks in the community in recent years. Look at their regulations and make some updates to their ordinance in 2015. Updates did several things. They made it illegal or not allowed to have new multifamily VHRs, and there are different regulations for the tourist core and for residential areas. And as I mentioned, there just recently was some additional enforcement staff hired. And one other difference is that the program used to be enforced by the police department. It's now enforced by development services. If you have more questions about the details of the program, we'll be happy to answer those. And there are some city staff there as well. Next slide, please. We are going to get into some voting. Does anybody have any questions about the voting before we get into it, or just about anything I've talked about so far? Process of what we're doing tonight? Yes.
I'd just like to make a comment about something you just said about enforcement. I think it's important to understand that there might be certain city codes that are enforced by the vacation home rental unit or people types of treaty they hired, but there's still a number of criminal penal code sections that the police department still will respond to and have restrictions.
Point. So I was generalizing. So the program is administered, and to some extent the enforcement happens through the development services, but of course when a complaint occurs, the police department is going to go out, or the sheriff in some situations, to immediately respond.
Yeah, you should pretty thorough when I get out to the city. I just don't recall.
Yeah, so on the initial announcement, we said that the remote access and information would be posted a little bit later, and we posted about a week or 2 weeks ago on the city's website. So I'm sorry that it wasn't clear. No, it wasn't. We didn't have it all worked out at that point. It was some information that was added later. Yes. Yeah. Yes. So multi-family units cannot apply to become a VHR in the residential zones, like apartments or condos. Yeah, thank you for reminding me. So that question was to clarify what we mean by no VHRs in multifamily units. And so in the residential zones, new permits to be a vacation home rental are not allowed in a multifamily unit. So that's different. Yeah, that's different. So the follow-up question was a house that rents a room in a single family home, that is not prohibited. Okay, so we are going to start with our first question. If we go to the page that has the login information. So if you haven't already, if you could text 22333. Sorry, that's the number you're going to text to. 22. I'm going to write it. And you text all caps South Lake Tahoe. That's I think black is the way to go. South Lake Tahoe, all caps. We will take your votes from in the room as well. Yes, so you can as well if you don't have a phone that works for this. You want to just do that up on there? Okay, great. Is everybody ready, or should we give you another minute? You getting any feedback on there, James? On the YouTube? Yes. Okay. Okay, we'll give you guys a couple more minutes. So she said they did hear from somebody remotely, but maybe it was someone that called her. Okay. So are you guys feeling ready in the live audience? Do you want to see if she needs help? All right. Bear with us at home. Too many options. Oh, if anybody wants to test it right now, go ahead. Yeah. Right. So when I tell them the question, what am I supposed to tell them for the what they choose? Does it say that on their phone?
No. I was expecting it to be broadcast on YouTube, so you just have to see the answers. But they're almost all.
No, but I mean, like to tell these guys how they vote. I didn't put that on the slide. Like what?
The answers correlate to what's on the slide.
Oh, okay. Maybe it'll be obvious when we get to the next slide. Okay, anybody else still working, or can we move to this next slide? Okay. Oh, I see, it is on. Okay, so first question, is expand lodging opportunities, making them good for tourists. So A, you would text A, well, let me go through it and then we'll actually do the voting. So A would be yes, B would be no, C would be not sure, and D is not applicable. Choices on your phone. Let's do our show of hands. So how many people want to raise their hand for A? Please leave your hands up. Okay, and then B, how many feel that no is the right answer? Yes. Oh, sure. C, is anybody not sure? And finally, one there. Sort of, it's a personal choice. I'm not sure, but have a kind of a other option. Okay, James, just let us know when you are ready. Okay, we still have results coming in from other states. No. It was a bad national election joke. What, do we need to close? Okay, so people out there on YouTube, we're going to get ready to close the now. Okay, so yes. So for the voters at home, we got an 82% yes, 15% no, 3% not sure. In the room, we got 21 yes, 8 no, 1 not NA. I will continue to try to speak clearly and loudly for those of you at home. We are having some technical difficulties, so I really... All right, we're going to move on to question number 2. We know that some people voted on their phone and in person, but we, generally we'll look at the trends. Yes. I'm not sure. I believe not right now, but we should be able to get that data when we can find out how many people actually participated. Let's move on to number 2. So number 2 is, do you believe that vacation home rentals strain public services? For example, code enforcement. So A is yes for this question as well. Is no, C is not sure, and D is not applicable. So in the room, if we could, so voting is open online and on your phone, and in the room, please raise your hand if your answer is yes. It's not on the... Okay, it should be open now. Please leave your hands up. You got them now? Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, try again. James says he's receiving input, so Please raise your hand if your answer is no. No. So, okay. So during the comments, we'll write. It's meant to be a perception, is whether people feel that way or not necessarily if it's true. How's it looking? Is anybody still having a problem voting on this one? Okay, great. So it looks like we've got our online results, our phone results. We have about 36% said yes, 55% said no, said not sure, and that may capture some of the questions we've had in the room about follow-up clarifications on this question, and then 3% said not applicable. So we're going to close, I believe we've closed this one now. We're going to move on to number 3. And we're going to have a conversation after this so we can get into some of the more of the gray area. Okay, so number 3, many vacation home owners are the only ones marketing their rentals. I believe that this results in well-maintained vacation home rentals that will attract customers. So same as last time, A is yes, is no, C is not sure, and D is not applicable. Well, the question here is about maintenance, not about behavior of the people renting. Yeah, that is part of it, but the main, like Jessica said, the main question is, if a house is a vacation rental, do you feel that it is well maintained? What is your impression? Okay. Well, that's what we have for tonight, so we're going to go with this for now. You want to do our in the room poll? Does anyone not want to answer? Yeah. Okay, so those at home, we're going to close the poll for question number 3. Okay, so the folks at home voted 45% yes, 33% no, 20, we have a couple of changes happening. 21% not sure, so that could also be part of the clarifying of the question. And we don't have any D's on this one. Everyone thought it was applicable. Okay, we have a couple. All right, number 4, do you feel that VHRs contribute jobs, for example, management, maintenance, and cleaning, to the local economy? So A is yes, C is not, G is not applicable. So we will go ahead and take your input online and via your phone, and then if we could go ahead and have the A's in the room raise their hand. He says, give him a minute.
Did you already do the room voting?
Did we? We only did A's. Yeah. Again, or?
Yes.
Okay, please try again on your phones if you haven't already. All right, at home, we are going to close the. With us. Okay, and similar to our response in the room, this one, the yeses were very clearly the winner. We had 92% yes on the text messages, 8% no, and no C's and no D's. I think we have at least one more question. Okay, question 5. Do you think VHRs in residential neighborhoods are inappropriate uses in residential zones? Is that not acceptable? So yes, B is no, C is not sure, and D is not applicable. But raise your hand in the room if you want to vote A, yes. Yes. The question is, do you think vacation rentals in residential neighborhoods are inappropriate uses? Commercial uses being in residential zones. So same as the other questions, A is yes, B is no, C is not sure, and D is not applicable. Okay, so go ahead, Jessica. And in the room, C, anyone? Should we give them a little more time?
We're good. We're good.
Question 5. Okay, so in poll we had yes at 22%, no at 71%, 7% not sure, and we didn't have any NAs. All right, let's move on to our next question. Okay, that's a good point. Sure.
So this could be a very biased survey. It has no value.
So I'll just remind everyone that we're not using this in any quantitative way. I'm going to restate.
And here,
Whether they are vacation, rental, locals,
or benefit from vacation.
or benefit, or if they are, accessing the, this is a public meeting, we're opening it to the public.
Both, but what is the issue?
So, yeah, everybody has a bias, and everybody has an opinion. So whether they're, if we said you're against vacation home rentals, are you allowed to take a survey now? Or if you're for vacation home rentals, should you be allowed to take a survey? They're going to base their opinion based on everyone's personal perspective. We don't limit it.
They should identify themselves as owners of the home.
Yeah. So most surveys at the end of the survey, like if you took the survey online, it'll ask you. What we find very interesting is most people drop off. They say, I don't want to tell you. Right? Most surveys. You take a survey, I don't want to tell you what my income is, or I want to tell you this, and we're kind of trying to find out things about me. They don't have to answer, and they also can answer untruthfully. But you can see by that last question that some people said are very different than what we're seeing in the room. It's more of a split decision. So it's more likely those who answered no to that last question favor nature, and those who think more negatively about it would probably say that they're not appropriate uses. And that's kind of just a logical who's taking the survey right now.
So are you saying that people voting no on vacation home?
No, say I don't know. You can make some assumptions, because that's every survey. A survey is just your
People
opinion.
have a vested interest in it more heavily.
Right. If you live here, everybody has a vested interest. We all do. We're trying to collect opinions from everyone. We don't, whether you live here, out here, don't, we haven't limited the survey, and we haven't limited who's participating. Everybody can participate.
So that's one of the reasons we're holding this workshop, is so that those people can participate.
Should we have only statistically valid survey, or should we let everyone participate?
We haven't talked about it yet here.
Statistically valid survey, ask, say, 600 or 1,000 people to participate and get a card. You randomly choose those people, and you randomly allow them to answer, and you limit it to one answer. But this is so important to so many people, and decided, no, we're just going to let everybody participate. The opinions are not worthless, they're everybody's opinion. But it is skewed based on who's taking it today, but it doesn't mean we're also collecting online, and we continue to collect. That's in the same case when we did the recreation master plan, we did the same thing. And a lot of people who were very interested in biking participated and skewed that survey that way.
Recreationalists said non-recreationalists were about 20%.
Yeah, so you can choose, if you want want to look at it from a specifically valid point of view, it's a different way of taking the survey. So what we're trying to do is collect everyone's opinion, everyone does count. Okay. Go ahead.
And this is, like I was saying a minute ago also, we set up this workshop. People who don't live here can participate. So yes, we expect that a good amount of those folks are going to be who don't live here. And we also have the not scientific but online surveys that have been open for a couple months, and those will give us a lot wider range of data. So what we're doing tonight is really getting a snapshot of the people who are participating tonight. So we're going to move on to the next question. Do you believe VHRs provide revenue to the city? Answers: A is yes, B is no, C is not sure, and D is not applicable. So please go ahead and vote on your phones, and Jessica will take your votes in the room. This one's not very arbitrary. Did you vote on this question already? No. Give it another try. I would say for folks in the room, because we have a Wi-Fi issue here, just vote with your hands then. Yeah, well, there's people at home aren't having a Wi-Fi issue. Hopefully. Okay, we're gonna close this question. This one also had a pretty strong trend. 80% said yes, the city receives revenue from this type of unit. 11% said not sure. Okay, and somebody asked how many people are participating, so we had 46 respondents on that question. That's about so far. Okay, we're gonna go to the next one. Number 7, do you think that VHRs have negative in character? Yes. No is B, C, and not applicable is D. Okay, no D's. Okay. We have a few more seconds for voting on the phones. James, give me a high sign. Ready?
We're getting better.
Getting answers. Thanks everyone in the room for being patient. Question? Yes. Because this format was an additional meeting to receive the same type of input so that people could participate remotely, and that possibly others who weren't at the first meeting could come to this meeting in person. Yeah, the same information was on the flyer. Sorry, that wasn't clear. So on this one, we got online, on the texting, we got 29% yes, 68% no, 3% not sure, and 38. All right, number 8. Do you think that VHRs decrease the supply of affordable long-term housing? So A is yes, B is no, C is not sure, and D is NA. So let's go ahead and raise our hand. Go ahead and raise our hand for A. Okay. Let folks texting have a few more seconds at home. Okay, and we're going to close the poll at home. So we had 30% say yes, 29%, 57% say no, 11% not sure, and 6% said this question was not applicable. So I think that's the highest percentage we've had on D. That's interesting.
Someone mentioned that they feel that if regulations were enforced.
Okay. I don't think we're going to get into the comments right now. Do you know how many people responded on that one? We're checking on number of respondents on the text on this one. Yes. So that's another reason we're not going to use this to quantify the numbers. We're just going to use the trends. Yes. Okay, let's move on. We have some questions. Number 9, do you believe that VHRs provide necessary supplemental income to property owners? So necessary is somewhat of a key part of this question. Yes is A, no is B, C is not sure. So if you want to raise your hand for A. Okay, and no's? Okay. One yes vote on the text on this one, 80%, 81%. 16% said no, 3% said not sure. Okay, next question. Okay, so this question is targeted at VHR owners. So if you are not a VHR owner, we would ask you not to vote on this question. And this is actually something somebody asked us to gather input on this particular question during our last round of we've added this question in this time. So the question is, and this is for people here in the room and at home, if you are a VHR owner, rent your property as a VHR long-term rental, or would you leave it vacant? So A is full, B is vacant, true. So we would consider ski lease as long-term. So if it's, to clarify, vacant for the purposes of this poll would include just like not renting it out for money. So A is long-term rental, B is vacant, C is other. So if you want to choose C, if you feel that your category is not described by A or B, that's fine. And then D is NA. So again, A is long-term rental, B is vacant, C is other, and D would be NA. So let's take a vote in the room. Wants to vote in the room for A, long-term rental. Yeah. B, vacant. C, other. And D, NA. We're not finished yet. Sorry, he's doing a lot of multitasking, so we can pull that up. But when we're still receiving input right now. Yes. You know, it's self-selecting, but it says VHR owner, so it's someone that is a VHR owner right now. Someone who has a permit, who's renting their property as a VHR. That's not who we were targeting this question to. It's to people who actually are renting as a VHR. James, someone would like to know how many people responded online to this one. So we've had a question whether or not this would include people who own property that could be rented out as a VHR, and was for folks who actually are currently a permitted VHR owner. And did you want to respond to the number of people question? Yeah. So the text, 11% of owners said that they would rent out long-term if they weren't doing VHR. 53% said they would leave their property vacant. And I would ask the folks at home or people who are texting, if you want to put in the comments what other means to you for question 10, that would be great. And then 8% said not applicable. I believe it was question 10. Yeah.
36.
36. Mm-hmm. On YouTube, you have to go to YouTube. You guys can provide us your comments here.
Yeah.
Okay. Next slide. I'm going to hold questions till we get to Q&A, which is very shortly. Maybe they can chime in on that. I can't respond to that. But you know what, sir? I'm going to hold your questions for just another minute. We're almost to Q&A. So can we go to the next slide? I think I went over this somewhat earlier, but just to give you guys a little bit of a snapshot of where we're going on the project after this. As I mentioned, in the next several months, March through April, we'll be preparing an administrative draft of the report, and then it will be provided to the city to review, and then it will be public after that, around May. And that will include the policy recommendations as well. We expect to have the workshop in May, June, the next workshop, when the report is actually available for you to review. And then July is our goal for finalizing the project, and then the city will have that final deliverable. Slide. For those at home, primarily, here's the link to the online survey if you haven't already taken it. If anyone here doesn't have the link, we'll give you a minute here to write it down, but we can also give it to you afterwards if that's easier. And it's on.
Can you give us a little feedback on how it's going so far? You're seeing a lot of respondents, or people contacting you. Are you talking to communities as well? Can you tell us how you're doing?
So, as far as the survey is concerned, for the survey, we got almost 2,000 responses on the survey. We will be verifying responses to make sure that we don't have no duplicated responses. So, we haven't gone through that process yet because we can tell the survey to make sure that we can do that.
How would you know how it's doing?
We set a couple of controls in the survey on the back of the survey so that when the survey is taken, it will have IP address and then also time that the survey was taken. So surveys that were taken with the same IP address, it immediately exactly the next 5 years.
I actually have a question on that because my husband and I both responded to the survey using the same IP address almost immediately next to each other. So would that negate one of us?
Well, when we are doing, I think it was another 15 responses from the household. That's legitimate. But if we end up with 15 responses, the day we get cut out, we're going to consider one of those or something that they would probably
Hire that person to take surveys. That's fast. And as Nancy mentioned, I think I mentioned earlier, that never happens. We did meet with some stakeholders when we were here in November from several different representative groups, by no means a comprehensive set of folks, but to get of the real estate community, opinion of folks who have had negative impacts from VHRs because they live close to one, from folks who manage or maintain VHRs. And then we've had a few follow-up meetings as well with some local agencies. So we're meeting with them to get their perspective on usage and also just data that they have available. And we've also met with some others who have interest. We met with somebody from HomeAway VRBO as well. So we also received lots of emails with individual input. So thank you very much for continuing to send that in. And we're going to go ahead now. I believe the next slide is Q&A. Yes. So.
Sure. So, one of the things we're collecting down two different components. There's two parts to the data analysis on this report. One part is trend analysis over time. The other part is a regression analysis, which is going to take use of the pattern formula to determine how variables interrelate with each other. Trend analysis, we've included everything from home values over time, census data. We've got calls for surveys. We're talking about water and trash usage. We're also meeting with the building department information. And we're using mostly GIS and then also some other processing tools to help us make sure that we're comparing apples to apples and we're tracking our data consistently. This would be particularly useful because questions. We are looking to teach, cognitive strategies and key components. So,
See that.
It's as much as we can, as long as we
Once in a while.
I don't think we're going to repeat comments to the crowd, but we will ask them to type in questions, and then we'll call those out as well.
Sharing on a meeting.
Okay, what is it?
Sharing on a meeting.
Oh, yeah.
right. So when you're working on data, especially when you're working on some data sets, one of the key components is to have a variable that translates in data sets. We're using, for the most part, is APM, accessories parcel numbers. We're using them to help ID, get the data, create targets so we can understand what's happening in the neighborhood. We have some assessors data to help us understand the size of the homes, how many bedrooms and bathrooms, and then we have collected also census data and peer built data to help us understand age of the homes and what's involved there. So, age of the home is not always a direct correlation to what condition it's in, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's easier to understand that maybe an older home is going to require more maintenance challenges. There's a lot of moving pieces, but we are trying to put it all together to not work with geospatial neighborhood by neighborhood.
Right. Can I repeat the question? I'm going to start repeating all the questions so that people at home can hear, since we're talking to you guys. So the question was, are we taking into consideration that different neighborhoods some have mostly single family homes, some have older, newer structures. So one more to it. So are we taking that into consideration? The answer is yes, and I'll let Jessica elaborate.
Yes, so we do have an equity case for the city. The data information for the different parcels. So between those two pieces, we can kind of tell what street looks like genetically. We're not going to go down and take it by unit. So what we're looking for is neighborhood impacts.
So I just want to say to the folks who are viewing at home, please type in questions that you have and we will respond to them as well. So please go ahead and do that if you have. Okay, we need to write down answers. So which thing do you want to do? Write down responses, and I think the gentleman in the back had his hand up first. So the question was, for the voting that we did tonight, do we know who owns and who rents? And no, we don't. So again, the voting we did tonight is a snapshot of who's participating right now. But for the surveys that are online, we do have those questions in there. That is true. Surveys are, people have to be self-responsible for what the reason would be for that, but yeah. So the question is, are we taking into consideration the character of the neighborhood before it was impacted by vacation rentals? I believe the answer is yes, because we are looking back at least 15 or 20 years, so we will at least have that time frame. If it's something that's been going on longer than that, I'm not sure if we'll be able to pull that data, but Jessica may also want to respond.
Yeah, so we do have some
Gray sweater in the middle.
Not sure if this is a question for you or Nancy. Looked at the impact of illegal VHRs. The reason I ask that is I've been in many of these meetings. I have no stake except for the dean who lives here. But it seems like there's some dispute as to what the city has on record and what people who have been opposed to town have gone door to door and found different information, different numbers of VHRs in neighborhoods. And so is that being looked at?
So the question is, are we looking at VHRs that are not permitted? Are we trying to figure out what the numbers are? So this maybe the black market. And I believe we are trying to do that, but Nancy, it sounds like you had something you want to say.
Well, so, yeah, and whoever's going to go to Guardian knows that's good information. No, because the new code says that if we fine you, the fine can be $5,000. We've taken those that we fine the people, and we do take them and cite them. A different administrative hearing officer has discounted some of those fines, doesn't work for the city, but so what we want to know, because what we do as soon as we find someone who's operating as a VHR without a permit, Maureen does an investigation. We generally get the information, just heads up. We find out personal intel, then we don't tell you that we're looking at that in the VHR, revealing your secrets back there, Maureen. And she goes to every website, finds out how much they've been renting, looks at the average daily room rate and so on. We look at whether we're getting that information into the TO2 side, and then we pull them in for an investigation of the PD, because there could be fraud, tax, all kinds of things. Could be a criminal case, and it might just be a civil case. But either way, we require them then to either go through the process and get a permit, pay the fine, and all of that. So we would like to know that's part of it. So when they do a data dump to us and give us all the information that they have IPs and APNs, and you can link them, we may find some additional folks who are operating without a license. We're coming to get you.
Good, you're part of it.
Yeah.
On that, Nancy, when you find that out, how does that adjust, you're looking at the neighborhood?
Whether they're illegal or legal is not the point of the study. The point of this study overall is to find out what perceptions are versus reality. Feeling about a VHR, whatever that feeling is, that we were talking a minute ago about perception. So some people think VHRs have negative impacts on the neighborhood. We saw the questions here. Some of the folks online who said they were VHR owners, they thought different. Well, those perceptions are very different. But they're collecting, of course, but what they're going to collect is no data. I didn't mean it that way, but what they're collecting is data. And the data will help us determine, did it inflate the price of a home? Well, if they're looking at historical values to say, this was the median price of a home, here's the number of VHRs, did it increase them or not? People think that they affect affordable housing. The question about whether or not you would rent it or leave it vacant was really about the affordable housing question. So comparing how you feel about it to the data, is it, we have people saying that VHRs take more services. They're getting data from trash, and you get some from the utility. Yeah, Liberty has a lot of data, so we're trying to get that to give that to the study. So by looking at the facts compared to what we think, and then that is delivered to the council, that helps them make a policy decision. So you want to make sure that you're not going to cut the price of homes and drop them to nothing in the house. Same time, you balance perspective. So that's the goal, is to take all that data and say, if you make this change in the code, if we were talking about your crystal ball, we estimate based on this data, this could be the impact. To the VHR code about 9 months ago, the VHR and real estate side said, you're going to drop the price of homes, and it's going to be trouble if we're going to sell them right away. So they can make a better decision that's based on a lot of data and not just how they feel, because it's trained and emotions about it. Are you talking about the Glenwood House? So the Glenwood House was bought by a gentleman who is very well off, and he indicates that it's kind of which one we're talking about. It's not a VHR, it's just renting it for corporate parties and things like that. Not renting it, it's letting this corporation use it. We got a bit crazy send code out there every once in a while. So if people do tell you one thing, you have to find the data and the evidence otherwise. The same with others. If they're not renting it, then you must have a VHR permit. And there's been some discussion like, well, they're just going to lie. That's a lot of work to like create a second set of books and hey, there's penny under the table and lie and say we're friends. It's a lot of work, and we talk to a lot of the VHR industry folks who say, I don't have time like to be creating all this phone stuff. But are people under the radar? Are people getting away with things? Sure, but we're really an investigator who's full time just investigating folks all the time. We look for that. We need intel from folks, and it helps us to go to the right home. We've got to get our resources that way. I'd have to look at that. I don't know which house we're talking about, but just send us the information and we'll check the code out there.
We have a question from online. Does the city recognize that South Lake Tahoe is largely a tourist town and that VHR owners provide a critical service to the city by providing housing for all the tourists that bring money into the economy? So, to respond to that, since I am not the city. The question is, does the city recognize that this is a tourist town and that the VHR are providing service in terms of the vacation rentals?
Okay, is our industry the greatest that the Great Recession ever had? And really a narrow industry. Those that are very diverse and a little bit more complicated. But we have an industry that's tourism, that is what supplies our economy. The question is, do they supply critical? I think that's what you're right. Is it a critical need? So tourists like us saying VHRs, if you go on a vacation, you might want to stay in and some might stay in a hotel. You said that's what the hotel is for. But it's not the way things are now. People like these two different options. The question was, is it critical to the city? That's an interesting question. Do you think it's critical to the city that we provide VHRs and tourists? Critical to us? Not critical. Not critical? You think it's not critical because that's the problem?
But I thought he said it so distinctly in the paper. He said we have people living in hotels who are tourist students, and that's the problem in our community.
Yeah, we talked a lot about that. That's true.
Okay, who hasn't had a chance to ask a question?
Nearby residents and homeowners. You guys are considering that there's a multitude of state and local laws that were enacted in social order, resident occupant rights and safety. And that was indicative of the value government places on the rights people have relative to their peaceful, uninterrupted enjoyment of their property. Now, I would argue that the operation of VHR businesses in residential neighborhoods demonstrated history of occupant problem behavior contradicts at minimum the spirit of the aforementioned state and city laws. They have to be looked at and considered.
So I'm going, can I try to, a more short repeat of a long question. There are city ordinances and state laws having to do with public health care and also having the right to not be disturbed. I'm going to paraphrase. Is the city taking that into account?
recognizes that, and that's, you know, when the code was, I've said this a number of times, I'll say it again, too, I think it's important. When VHR first popped out, we think it's like 2000. Not true. People have been renting their homes. We did our 50th anniversary study, or collecting of information. People have been renting their homes up here, you know, forever, whatever. It's a complex of things that have happened. During the 2000s, 2008, you know, there weren't rented that many, but then during the recession, we had a huge increase in the number of second homeowners that were purchased, and then people via online. And so when the recession started to lift, we had this influx of folks renting in areas that weren't being rented before. It was very quiet. Nobody was coming here. Completely dead. So this happened right away. And what the council did there, saying we've got to address this problem because all of these complex of issues have happened at once, they amended the code. It would be detrimental to completely wipe them out on the spot. To take one opinion and say, we're just going to get rid of them all. It would be very detrimental in many, many different ways. We're finding this balance of saying, how do we limit them right now and sort of slow this down a little bit while we analyze the impacts, look at the data, so they can answer that question. The residents say, and what's their opinion? Very strong set of residents in our town. They speak well about their opinion, and that will come to the council to amend the policy to address those issues.
And I'm not advocating to wipe out. What I am saying is that going forward, you know, one of your requirements or one of the code is whether how many rentals are within or units of different homes and each other. And I think you have to really adhere to that consideration as paramount, because you get to the point of oversaturated.
The saturation is a criteria they're looking at for sure. That was the question was, will they be looking at really oversaturation? They are looking at that. The guy in the back, then we'll go here.
They have been driven from homes and apartments into horrible slum hotels without kitchens. To protect them. That is the majority of the constituents. What have you done to protect them? Right now, what I'm hearing is people who own vacation homes being severely overrepresented.
Repeat. So the question is, well, the statement was made that a majority of the population here makes $24,000 or less. The living, particularly, I believe, in rentals, is really challenging. There are not decent options for those folks, and how can we respond to that?
There's a really long discussion, but definitely we've all been talking about it. It's kind of a sense to people who live in hotels. There is a huge issue with trying to figure out when that happens. It's really related to the commodity issue, which is the development rights. They make more than so investors invest where they can get a return on investment. They're not going to get it in the long term right now. This is where they're making their money. The government doesn't tell a motel what to do with that. Adopted a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, the city adopted a regulation to change how motels operate. They had to get a different kind of permit now to operate under that. Well, that might be the case. There was some discussion about that. I think Joanne brought that up, that actually might happen if that was going to be the case. Long discussion about how to change that. What we first have to do is work on the development rights, and then some CRPA works on that. I can talk with you later about that, but if you want to focus on vacation home rentals, that's been a switch for sure. That's what some cities are doing, enforcing the minimum wage hire. But you had a question, you said these two.
Have a higher CMT on VHRs so we can generate more revenue and also them?
So the question is, can we tax VHR owners even higher? We have to go to the voters, and the voters are the local residents who live here. So probably, they probably would vote for that if it went to something specific, I would say. Not just tax them for the sake of taxing them, but taxing them for something specific. Right now, everybody is going up by 2% for recreation, not including VHR. You guys had a question?
Requiring permits on rooms that are rented.
The Airbnb question really is, if you just rent your home individually, do you have to have a permit? You have to go through a process. It's a little bit different. So can you explain it? They would like you on camera. Okay, Maureen, can you come up and explain that? Can you come up? We didn't want to turn the camera around.
Home sharing.
Home sharing, is that what they call it?
Yeah.
It's like one that really reflects a lot of these private people who are housing. A lot of people are doing room instead of taking roommates. These homes are never going to become affordable housing.
Well, yeah, we can have that discussion, because that's, I think that's what most people, the giant mega homes really tipped the scale on, for the residents that that's too big for our neighborhood. But that's not really this question on the Airbnb side. So on the home sharing, Marie, could take a process down with it.
I work with, on the websites, finding places that are renting. And in June of this past year, voted, or the city council determined that if you're renting a room in your home, it's like renting a commodity in a hotel room or a house, and you should be paying TOT. To pay TOT, the only way to collect TOT is through a permit. There are issues with finding those renting a room in their home for fewer than 30 days or fewer, because if you're the owner renting or through an agent, we can find you by the property owner, but we have no database. Mary Smith is 512 Hillside Road. So when Mary Smith is advertising online and specifically puts no pictures of the outside of the building, it's very difficult to find that short of actually making the booking ourselves. And that is the very high hanging fruit, where the vacation rental homes that are paying TOT and renting for a substantial amount, frankly, are the lower hanging fruit. And we've made great inroads in finding them. And if they still want to do it, they still have to go through the whole process. And they may have had, code infractions in the meantime. But to specifically answer your question, if you're renting a room in your home to someone for 30 days or fewer, you're required to have a permit and pay TOT.
If you don't, we will find you. Right?
We have
Another online question too. So we want to mix.
Oh, sure. We have an online question.
so another online question is, what percentage of people in South Lake Tahoe industry, and I don't know if they are asking people who are residents or the jobs total. We don't have that number. I don't know if anyone else here has that number. And then the follow-up question is, what would be the impacts on those jobs if VHRs were not allowed? So I don't know if we can answer that completely.
Well, if we eliminated an industry, the percentage, do you have an idea of people that work for you guys? Residents?
Talk about our industry, what it is in the story. So everybody's employment is down in some way, shape, or form down the line.
Oh, it's impacted by tourism.
So that's a tough one. I don't know.
What's the percentage of people working in? We don't know, but I think the last part of your demographic question is whether you're in the job, so hopefully right. We will be collecting certain relevant information to the extent that it's possible to help determine whether or not people in the service industry, food service, retail, commercial, so we will have some industry information regarding employment. We talked to a lot of people during the midst of the recession who had said previously, you know what, I have nothing to do with tourism at all. I'm a doctor or with professional services, tax accountant, things like that. But during the recession, during the recession, we talked to a lot of folks who said, I didn't realize that I was impacted by the tourism industry, but because I was professional and working in this professional environment, my clients are, and they hit the road. And so they learned through that process. Jesse, you had a question?
So the question is there a study happening of, I'm sorry, impacts like trends over time? So are socioeconomic impacts of other accommodations being studied? That's not part of this study.
That's probably an easy data. So the question was, you know, if you are collecting that data as to basically, are people less likely to stay in a hotel now because there's VHR? Is that the question you're trying to get at? So has occupancy gone up or down in hotels at the same time? VHR is going to. That's a pretty easy data point to probably get, because the Lake Tahoe Visitor Authority collects it. They collect ADR, average daily room rates, and a lot of occupancy rates. And I know Carl Robato's study went back. He might have that, but we can probably get that pretty easily and add that. Okay.
I think
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we jumped over you. I tried. So we must have already collected that data, since you know there are 426 VHRs in the commercial zone. So are we collecting more data? Yeah, it's part of the study. So, well, that's a policy decision. I don't have to make those decisions. So, will they still be in the commercial zone forever? I don't know that answer, but that's your argument is.
Collecting input on whether it's more, you know, people's impressions of, do they belong in the commercial zones versus residential, or do people not have a preference? It's the study is only.
Yeah, it's not the name of the study. The VHRs in residential areas. The study is, what is the impact on VHRs in our economy as a whole? Both the residential quality of life is our economy too. So what's the impact on quality of life? That's your perception, and that is very high important to the study. Data point on uses of services, commercial, residential, the whole thing. It's the whole assessment of VHRs to the best that we can. There's going to be some holes always, a little bit of gap. Okay, I saw a bunch of hands. Ed, Ken, Bonnie, we'll go that way. Oh, you were first. And then I can like, okay. Okay. I couldn't hear you. Yeah. Kelvin Fabino, our Development Services Director. Yeah. So is the question, what's the zoning? I can't hear him.
Let's let him finish his question.
Okay, I can answer.
So the question is, or the comment was made that over time it seems like there are now many vacation home rentals that have multiple families, so like 15 or 20 people in one single family home. And is that allowed? And if it's not allowed, what is the city doing about it?
Well, I don't have to get.
And how did that become an issue?
So the real question is, how did we get to the point, so what I'm going to say is, how did we get to the point that vacation home rentals are allowed in residential zones because your assumption is the commercial businesses? That's what your question is? Okay, so that's the argument actually. So people who own their home, they bought it, maybe it's their second home, or maybe I've done a lot of vacation home
accommodation unit grew in popularity quite a bit between the years 2000 and where we are today. In our community during the recession, we didn't have a lot of people staying here to look at our books on TV. They were not here. Whether they were in hotels or being homes, they weren't here. But a lot of increase in the permits happened at that time. And also between 2000 and 2010. Before 2000, 2003, we didn't even actually have a permit. And what was in the code until the changes were made in the last year and a half was it was an administrative permit. It's just, oh, the counter, here you go. The idea at that time, when the councils were on back then, was these are guests in our town. We want to make sure that we collect hotel taxes. And we want to welcome them. That was the idea of the code. It was not intended to be as restricted as it is now. Then it grew, and then the recession lifted, and more people came. And all these people in the neighborhood, it all happened at the same time. This is not unique to Tahoe. Around the globe, we are a place that people want to come, and that will always be happening. We are also a place that people want to live. How about the rest of the globe? What's that? What's that?
Is it viable?
No. No. The argument is whether it's a commercial enterprise. So that's what we're really talking about in this city now. People's opinion is it is a commercial enterprise. We've seen some instances it is. Somebody rents it and it's a corporation and it's just one of their many VHRs and they're collecting it. But that question is that person's house and their opinion on it is the right to rent it. That's the argument. So the code allows them to rent it. We're trying to VHRs are different people.
So I'm going to take a question from remote.
Oh, can I read this? They can rent it according to the maximum occupancy on their permit.
I think she said yes, it's allowed. So I'm going to take a question from online.
Well, actually,
ma'am, hold on. I'm going to take a question from online first.
I want to finish this because we had this very discussion about some time. So if you're in a planning department, and the city has a residential code, and the residential code, there should be a residential area. The argument I would make from the resident, I would say that is not a residential use. And that's the resident's perspective for the most part. But that's what it means. But that property is, so and your code allows me to rent it for less than 14 days as long as I pay the tax. So that's the balance of perspective we're trying to get at right now. I know you three are next. She wants to go to one-on-one.
Yeah, so the question is, well, we need the intent of tonight is to also take questions from online. So please hold. So the question is, depending on the findings of the study, is the intent to change the policy for only new rental permits, VHR permits being issued, or for all existing permits? And I'm going to have to say that we don't know yet, but
And is there going to be a grandfather clause? It's very difficult to administer, but it really depends on what the council is going to decide. But these three are promising that some red and black and some of them. We're pretty packed in here during the holidays. Okay, let's go jump over. Can you find out who's next? He's going to walk over. Yes, I'm okay.
Okay? The courts of rules that you require a variance, which I don't think you do now on the permit hearings, it requires a variance to put a commercial operation in an R1 area.
The argument is commercial.
No,
Yeah.
the courts of rules. Okay? Check with that there.
Well,
Check with Watson.
I still want to because when you walk in like this, so this is the city's code. And every city in our country has a really awesome opportunity. And that is you get to make your own rules. And this city,
No, you don't.
yes,
No,
you
the courts
do.
make the rules.
Well, that's always open to decide whether your rule is constitutional.
Yeah,
But
the rules are-
under your constitutional and we're in the general constitution, so we have many others on planning for the city. Yeah, the voters that can gather and take something to the ballot and change how that ruling is. But the voters in the city council, those are the turn the regular development code.
But you can't overrule the courts.
Well, it depends on what the court's case is.
The courts get said operations, which are short-term rentals, require a variance. And you don't have variance hearings, you have a permit hearing to be allowed in R1 neighborhoods. Check with Ed Mapp. I think he's very well schooled in this area. And you should check with Mr. Watson to see if he is schooled as well.
I don't know if it is. Find out. And I just said, we'll find out. No, seriously, we're we've been looking at all these things as to what, if there is illegal uses or not. That's been the argument of some folks that these are illegal uses, and that's a debate. And the debate also dealt with the tourist accommodation.
So there's no debate.
All right, Ken. I can appreciate that.
Unless you're Supreme Court, you want to change it.
Yeah, we were promised comments and a couple questions in this. Comprehensive and inclusive study. So what I'd like to know, one first question is, back in the very beginning of this, I said exactly what problem I was saying. Like I said, it's going to happen. You're going to have the first in the neighborhoods and the residents and the tourist areas, and that's come to pass. The first review and that came after 2003 before the council. I showed them a cover of Money magazine. South Lake Tahoe and South Shore of El Dorado County made the cover of the magazine. The number in two of the top five in 2 different categories for rise values. Okay, they're going up 46.7% a year, and that was a direct result very much of the ordinance that was put in 2003 because it legalized vacation home rentals, so people were able to buy that second home, bring it up in cash in time, you have to put 5% down or so, or even less. And it was investment properties. We had doctors and pediatricians and parties, so we had 17 in each. So it was investment properties, and these contributed greatly to the rise, and that's why things got out of hand.
So what, sir, what is your question? What is your question?
So I'm saying, I like to look back to the comprehensive study, go back and look at the effect of the various ordinances put into effect on the rise in real estate prices and home prices and what is happening.
So I think we could use it as a comment box instead of right there and then comment box. We're really looking to take questions and get questions answered, but we want comments.
But I think there was a question, and the question is, are we going to look at those trends that started around the year 2000? And yes, we are.
Are you looking at the other side of the coin is that these vacation rental homes, VHRs, were occupied by residents, by full-time owners that were living here. I figured out they said it's a $20 million industry in itself built and stood up and said that. I figured out that 266 jobs and 75,000 units, that's what it is. So in 13 years, that's all they had to do. Look at if there are full-time residents or family in that, or people living in that full-time, what are the impacts, what are the financial impacts? And I feel like a lot bigger than that. They have kids, in school, you get $5,500 a year, whatever it is, per student. To look at the impacts of the work, VHRs, the people who are living there full-time.
So the question is, are we going to look at the comparative economic impacts of the way things are right now, the number of VHRs and the type of revenue and economic impacts that has, versus if some or all of those buildings were long-term residences, and we will be getting that data. I don't know that we're not doing a full-blown economic study on resident. We will get some of that.
I think we could look at the census data. Here, right. Over the last 15 years.
one.
Okay, Bonnie.
Oh, yes.
Wait. Sorry, Bonnie.
A lot of the questions are quite long tonight, so I apologize. What was that?
Just number one.
Okay, so we have a question from online. Okay, go ahead. So, okay, thanks for that comment.
And there's this balance of perspectives and jobs. So we look at, we hear a lot from residents that we do not want to come in. We do not want to lose all of our locals that have to live off the hill. We don't want to do that. I think that's really what council's done in the number of years, the last 3 or 4 years. We're going to grab all of this issue. We're going to try to keep it going while we're studying it. But we want to listen to every perspective. And it's going to be looked at, I think, around the country. We're already getting a lot of questions about how are you doing the study, what's happening. You're being asked to speak about it and participate in those kind of things. Because in every city that people want to visit, we're struggling with this balance to hold on to that sense of community and not totally sell out of the VHR, but not lose the VHR. You have to find that. So, I think it's going to be good looking at all of that. You have another question?
Yes, and this is somewhat of a follow-on to what you were just saying. So the question is, does the city have a bias in the outcome of this study, or is it neutral? And is this just a fact-finding mission? Does the city have a positive or negative opinion of VHR? So I've already said this a bit tonight, but the idea is that this is a information gathering study. And everybody at the city has a personal opinion about this, but the idea is to gather this information and analysis to inform future decision making. So,
one of the reasons we hired an outside firm, I don't know if you remember, we went 3 times out on the RFP trying to get the right group to study it. We really wanted an academic approach balanced with some economics, and we didn't want to be doing it ourselves. We're in the bubble too. We're hearing from all these perspectives. We do develop ideas and we think about it. Step back and look at all the data, gather it, you're all neutral and we don't live here, so there could be crazy, why don't live here? That's a good thing. I think you visit here, you have friends here, something like that. But we wanted them to be able to say they are neutral to this process. We want people to read through the data, take it apart, we know everybody will, and then be able to believe that data and believe the results, and then it's going to be delivered to council to say, okay, you have all this data, now how do we find the balance of perspectives going forward?
I'm going to come back to said that the basic home rental presence in cities across the nation is nothing unique about that. You know, the presence.
A lot of people are struggling with that.
Right. But what is unique about Tahoe is, even though it's a tourism town, it's a small town. And the point of saturation reaches it a lot quicker than a lot of other cities and towns. You got to take that into consideration. What you hear from a lot of residents is that regardless of what the study showed, you know, they have a perception.
Well, don't write off the stuff.
No, I understand. You understand. I'm going to basically more important than perception. I hope. But Lord, I think he needs to have.
Well, I think the council was very clear when they started listening to everybody's questions. I think it came at the time that maybe in Austin, okay, we're going to have a subcommittee. And they might have had different perspectives. Once they started sharing with everybody, we need to take this very recent approach. Done a good job of saying we care about everything, but you know what? We might have reached a saturation. You know what? We do care about everything. We do understand the industry. We do know that it pays tax revenue, it pays for public safety services and general fund. But we know the residents have said, okay, we're doing too much in our neighborhoods, and then I'll fall on terms like to try to solve that problem. Feel bad for you came to the city council sometimes, but you know, this is the balance of saying, what is your opinion? It is, everyone has their own perspective on the opinion. And so trying to mitigate that means that if everyone's doing a little bit of making sure that they understand that the council's listening to them, the consultants are listening, staff is listening, we're gathering all those perspectives, talked to a lot of big owners who have called and they said, you know, I feel like I'm paying discounts. I also pay property taxes and I care about the town. I love that town. So not all VHR owners are the same. Not all residents are the same at certain points. So everybody's perspective is different. We can't categorize any one group. We want to hear from everybody. So one of the facts, and then
Two more. We have two more online.
Two more
We have
online.
5 minutes left.
That's interesting.
So there are it's a pretty wide variety. Yeah, so the question is, what are some solutions other jurisdictions have come up with? And some are not allowing VHRs, some are only allowing home sharing, which would be in a home but not a whole property. Some are limiting them to a percent per area or to certain areas. So like when Linda mentioned earlier, the tourist core, if it was only limited to those zones and not residential. Others are allowing a certain number of permits overall to be issued, and when that number is reached, no new permits are issued until one falls out.
Yep. Very prolonged wait periods. So if you want to get a VHR, you have a 2-year wait period before you be able to collect it.
So why would they do that? So we're looking at why the city adopted and adopted. And why are they doing that? What would be the advantage to the residents who said, okay, you own your home, you own your home for 2 years before you become a car? What would be yeah, it's the investment question, right? Well, you're just buying this for an investment, and you probably won't do it. You might want to hold on to that, use it for a while, and see. For some of the others, so what we're really looking at, I love all the different studies that we've done, we're reading all that. What we're looking at is, we have the advantage. We're seeing some of these ideas we're putting into place, what is the outcome? One time you said, okay, that's it, we're getting rid of all the VHRs. Well, they're seeing that people are going in their advantage, and they're spending more time now on food enforcement. So we're looking at, we have the advantage of some time to see what those decisions were and what was the outcome. So when the council is presenting the recommendation, it's not going to be this is what you should do. It's going to say on the side, what we're looking for is, if you want to limit X, this is what you might consider. If you're thinking of allowing, unlimited VHRs because you just want to think about revenue, this is what you would do. So they're looking at it from an outcome perspective, not just we think you should do X, because that's not the goal. These are all the policy ideas that we come up with, and this will be the decision to how to get there. Linda,
and we're getting close to the end of our time, so I apologize if we can't get to all the questions tonight, but please online and here write in your comments and questions, and they will be taken into consideration. So this person asked, will there be any polls of tourists to find out if their behavior in visiting South Lake Tahoe would be changed as a result of changes in availability of VHRs? So that isn't part of our study. I don't know if that's anything that the city has
I think a poll
thought about doing.
Interesting that really we're here to answer residents, property owners, property taxpayers, industry, what they would do. There are on average the study isn't going to be done until July. Why aren't you considering a moratorium until we find out what we can? Okay, so the question is, why not have a moratorium until the impact? So that was on the table a couple years ago. We put that in front of council of all their options they could consider. And if you remember that council meeting was pretty extreme. It was like you could have a moratorium or you could go all this stuff we were just saying something to. They took that middle approach that a moratorium without any study or any data could have very serious negative effects, just make a bunch of findings in the law. So that wasn't what they took. They took a middle ground. But I want to answer your question as to how many applications are we getting a week? 5 every other week.
Okay, but why aren't you doing it until
So again, that answer the question is why not a moratorium until that you have to make some findings, and the council chose not to do that, and we're just undertaking a study. Who was that? Okay. I can't. So the question is, we're marketing Tahoe as a party town for that, yeah, that's the tourism. So LTV, Lake Tahoe Business Authority, does all the marketing for South Lake Tahoe. We do have a representative, council member of Hanford too. Wendy David is our appointee for Lake Tahoe Business Authority. We just got on that question for you guys. So when the Lake Tahoe Business Authority, they develop the marketing campaign, they get input from some people, but they hire a company, they do some marketing ideas, but it isn't a residential perspective, and should they take one, I think there's been a lot of discussion that the residents don't like being marketed as a party town. I think that's a good one. It's not part of the VHR study. Okay, I think online and then it's paid. So we'll call it, but we're happy to stay after to answer questions.
Question from online is,
Debbie has one more. Okay.
Has a VHR permit ever been pulled because the violation limit was exceeded?
Have we ever yanked a VHR permit under the new code? It's is it 2 or wait, they get the 3. Yeah. Okay. So have we ever yeah. It's pulled. And so the question is, have we pulled any because they got through 4 violations? I don't think we have. We've had quite a few that left the system. Some of the security regulations are out or whatever. They've been a couple hundred, I think I got 6 last year. But what they're doing is there's 2 types of violations. You say the violation is citation to the visitor now and the homeowner. So the visitor gets one, the homeowner gets a warning. A different visitor gets one, the homeowner gets a citation and says something. Then another visitor gets a notice of third. So what's happening when they get that second one, they are on it. They actually argue those cases really well. They appeal them. So they don't want that citation. Some of the VHRs have hired their own security firms and they patrol it and they get the visitor and the neighbors to call that security. We're trying to actually intersect that a little bit so that we do know if there is a problem. But their issue is, well, as long as we solve the problem, that's the most important thing. So they're not letting it get that violation. Some of what?
Some of the applications.
Oh yeah, how can we deny permits? Yeah. Wait, Desi was mentioning we were going to call it. But Desi. Okay.
And since I started following it last night, I've seen several cases where there have been questions that communication to the city. Everybody involved in the government at the last council meeting brought up the issue of communication. And I sent some letters to emails to you, Kevin, city council. I feel it's not personal, but overall, that it undermines the awareness. And there's really no legal substance to defend. And it is limited by the laws. You said tonight that you want to listen to everybody, and I don't feel that I've been listening. I brought it up at the council. Sent a letter afterward to HR hearings and I'll send the person responded. We sent it. I got 2 council members to respond to the phone. I sent one to you because it was video like happened last year. And what I'm trying to do is point out that you guys are sending the city out.
So the question is, are we listening to residents' responses, complaints, and concern on legal? Are you not listening?
The question is, okay, not that, because no, you're not. The question is there any desire on the part of the zoning administrator or the
So I'm going to take exception a little bit to what you said. I have met with you. I've met you on Catherine and ourselves. I've answered you many, many times. And we've met and we've had discussions and we've actually implemented a couple of really good suggestions. We said, you know, that was a good idea. We changed actually the VHR hearing because of your suggestions. We are listening. We said, that's some really good ideas that you have. Could we implement that? Some of the issues you have with the VHR on your street. We took that right to the VHR and we implemented every single suggestion. So we are actually listening. Legal ratification? Sure. Could we get a lawsuit? Sure. On both sides of that. Could the voters take this to the ballot? Sure. And the voters and the residents have a right to speak what they think, and the council has to listen to everyone. We also have to listen to the VHR side and the people who are working.
Both sides.
Yeah.
You know, you get somebody that comes in here and different about that. Change the rules in the middle of the game and cap it for 30 days.
So there's been a couple of comments about that. So people have suggested, hey, we've seen this happen in the VHR permits. And they said, I will be willing to only rent it a little bit. I'm not that interested in renting it. One person said, I'll put it in security. I got the whole security system. I'll have my neighbor. They have my neighbor come in here. My neighbor watch it. So Kevin implemented every one of their suggestions into the comment because they said they wanted to do it. We're like, great. And they don't want to speak on that anymore because they're saying you're implementing our suggestions. So it is very difficult. He's trying to find that balance. But when they offered ideas, they offered their neighbor, they offered security, they offered to not rent it very often, and we put that into the permit. That well, maybe then the neighbors and them can come to agreement about how it's going to come. Are we going to satisfy everyone? I don't think that's possible. I'm trying to find that middle ground.
How many VHRs can be in what was considered a residential neighborhood before it becomes commercial?
Yeah, there is no limit in the code. What Kevin's doing is he's looking at that saturation point. He's really taking the resident's point of view of each neighborhood.
Oh, no, it's not, because I went against somebody putting a VHR in on my street. We gave him the permit. We now have 5 VHRs, 4 live-in residents, and 2 vacation homes.
So
VHRs outweigh us totally. VHRs
there is no limit in the code.
Commercial.
There is no limit in the code. There is no limit in the code. The code does not have a saturation point. Kevin considers those things and he's been criticized for considering it. Either way he goes, he's criticized when he takes it. Now I want to make sure you understand, just because a neighbor, 2 neighbors say I don't like it, that's not a reason for denial, and just because 2 say they like it is not a reason for approval. He's looking at a variety of things. Now there's a more complete presentation on all of it. So we're going to call the meeting now. Yeah, I think that's true. But
5 vacation rentals on the street.
yeah.
Totally residential. That's ridiculous.
I think that feeling is very true, and that has reached the saturation point for many people, and that's what council's consideration is now. Meeting 8:10, but happens to answer any questions for you. Come on up.
Thank you, everybody, for your participation. Should I get stopped?
No, let it go for a second.
Okay. Hi. My name is Judy Brown, and I was the one, okay? You're on the camera right now, so I don't know if you want to be.